What up, y'all? Hood politics with pride. Got the eyeballs cracking. What does that even mean? Basically, that we're recording this. Now, I just purchased, or I'm about to purchase, a new camera from the homie Curtis King. You could check out his YouTube channel if you care about. He has this thing called DIYers, which is like do it yourself. Really big on independent, doing it yourself hip hop. One of the dopest, smartest men I've ever met, and he team light skin. You know what I'm saying? He one of the good ones. That is the most awful thing to say about another black man. I'm kidding. Langston, don't be mad at me. You too, Miles, And y'all know Miles, they lost their home too. So please find that GoFundMe and support the homie. But the point I'm making is, wait, let me make sure I'm using the right audio. Okay, I'm definitely using the right audio. But the point I'm making is I got a new camera from him because I bought a camera on Amazon and it was trash. I tried to set up to make this be the first episode of the upgrading of quality, but camera was trash. So it's boxed up, and that's what I get for shopping on Amazon. I broke my own principle here. There are some things about the fact that we live in this poisonous water that is capitalism, and as evil as a corporation as Amazon is, what am I supposed to do? You gonna shop at Target? Why they get like, what's the difference? You feel me? So I was like, I need a camera. I need one fast. And in typical propaganda fashion, when it comes to consumer products, I didn't do the research. My research was the price tag. And I am now about to return this mug and buy a camera from the homie Curtis King, so that the quality of these videos can be. I am rambling, and I know this is going to be a long episode. You Wasn't Outside, series finale, the Ceasefire edition. Now, in my rambling preamble, there's a few things I want to highlight that we're going to cover today. First of all, we started this series about Israel and Palestine calling it You Wasn't Outside because, this is way back to season 1, because it was very clear by seeing the discussion that was happening in the news and online and just among our friends, Americans were grossly uninformed. Like embarrassingly uninformed about, first of all, conflict, colonialism, the history of the Middle East. Didn't know what an intifada was. No idea what an Israeli settlement is inside of the West Bank. Like, just Americans had no idea. And the only way for me to explain it was like, man, y'all was like, okay, you wasn't outside. Like, you don't, like, in the same way when you guys talk about gang violence, okay, y'all wasn't there. So clearly you don't know what you're talking about. That was our attitude as to why I called this series You Wasn't Outside. And then after 15 months, college students getting radicalized, it seemed like people caught on real quick as to what was going on. And it was like, oh, I think we understand now. We done caught up real quick. We may have jumped in. America may have jumped in at season 9, episode 1, but we seem to catch up as to what was going on pretty quick. It seemed to me like we did, like, okay, once we figured it out, we was like, oh, something ain't right here. And this right here is the season finale. And notice how I'm not saying this is the series finale. Because again, if you was outside, you know this is far from over. We are going to discuss today how the negotiations went, the carnage, and let me ask you this. Who you think got the dub? Who you think won this round? I have thoughts. Hood politics, y'all. All right. This is the whole last third week of 2025 and God dog. So let's start. But look, it's like this. But look, it's like this. But look, it's like this. All right. It is like this. Apparently, it's an inauguration today. You gonna watch that? I'm not. But I am interested in the fact that Snoop, Ricky Rose, Soldier Boy, which I guess I kind of get, Nelly, all participated in the festivities around whether it was the crypto, which is something else to be said, because if Trump launches his own cryptocurrency, then that means foreign governments can invest in it without saying who they are and identifying themselves. So, that don't seem like a security breach to me, and I don't know what is. And speaking of security breaches, we're going to talk about TikTok in a second. But listen, the way that my West Coast trauma is set up, far be it from me to have any smoke for my OGs. We just are not allowed to talk about our OGs in public. However, Rose is not my OG. He's Atlanta. I kind of don't understand that move, except for the fact that I do understand that he's a hustler. Soldier Boy, they hustlers. I don't know if we know what either of them believe. So like that I can wrap my mind around. Snoop, this one kind of hurt. I kind of don't know. I don't know what to do with this one, because I feel like Snoop walks on water out here in Los Angeles. And I was even with him. Most of the time I could see the play. During the Biggie and Tupac thing, Snoop had no problem. He was like, I ain't got no problem with them. Like, I'll go do a song with him. Like, and call me on it. I'm a gangster. And that that part I understand. Normally we could see the play. I understood the Skechers play. Like, I understood the WWE play. The man showed up on WrestleMania. I understand the T-Mobile play. Matter of fact, I would love for some game as to how to. He talked about once like doing the Skechers thing, and that's why he did it. I get to play. This one is a little more difficult for me. He's never been afraid to cross enemy lines, like, because the Combine where his recording studio is and stuff is in Inglewood, which is known to be all bloods. And he a Crip, and he like, I go where I want to go. Maybe I explained the play to myself. Snoop just do what he want. He ain't really worried about what y'all think. I just figured it out. Never mind. Normally I respect it. You know what I'm saying? This one was just, I don't know, man, because you kind of said, I think what made this one so difficult is because he was so strong about stop being a tap dancing jigaboo for this man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the part I didn't understand. He was like, Trump's a fucking racist, and anybody whoever runs with him is a motherfucking racist too. Like, those are your words, my nigga. You know what I'm saying? That's the part I don't understand. Let me see. Another news. It's like this. Drake responded to UMG with a lawsuit. UMG was like, my nigga, sir, what sense does it make for us to sabotage our own artists? What sense does that make? Then they had to explain hip hop to him. This is a battle. This is what battles are. You have said horrible things about other people. And it was crickets then. And as a matter of fact, big dog, why you suing us? We didn't say it. Kendrick said it. How you suing us, cuz? Proving again, he is not like us. And finally, it's like this. Trump ran the textbook hoodster play, which is call out a hit, make somebody else do the hit, and then stop the person from doing the hit so that you could be the hero. Is that not what happened with TikTok? Was it not obvious to y'all? It was obvious to me that's what this man was doing. Because as everybody know with Trump, you just got to be the last person to talk to him. Because if you the last person to talk, you can convince him of what you saying. Just make sure nobody come in after. So as long as you bend the knee, you good. Trump in there saving this book. He's like, oh, no, TikTok's great. Like America likes great. A lot of people on TikTok like me. This fool just being Captain Save-A-Ho. You heard what I'm saying? Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. LA on fire still. Well, actually, it's finally calming down. What's heating up is the rent prices. There's somebody that go to my daughter's jujitsu because my daughter's in jujitsu, whose rent is they got displaced and they rent is $10,000 a month. Big and the owner is like, I'm charging you this because I can. So I think we found the looters everybody was worried about. Back to it, you wasn't outside. All right. Ceasefire edition. Today's going to be a little heavy. And why is because, let me rewind the clock for y'all a little bit. This season, which, we lovingly called season 9, I'd made up the number 9. I don't know why I just called it that. Episode 1 was the October 7th attack from Hamas on Israel. But like we've done in multiple episodes, we went back and explained Zionism, on the Zion and the other Zion, the actual, pilgrimage back to Israel from European Jews that were escaping the pogroms, post World War II, and just an understanding as to like why they so terrified and feeling froggy all the time. If you went through that collective trauma, you'd feel froggy too. You'd think everybody talking to you got a problem. You would be scared anytime anybody talk about their own protection and their own rights. We also talked about the history of even why this place is called Palestine, because this particular region was named that by the Romans, and it was to troll the Israelites because Palestine is the Roman word for the Philistines. Philistines, if you know your Bible, that's Goliath, like David and Goliath. Goliath was a Philistine. So it was a troll, but the name of which doesn't matter. These people have lived here. There were some people that never left. The region continued to be the region while the displaced Jews were in Europe living for a century, multiple centuries. Life never stopped here. I think a lot of times when when you move away and you come back, you expect people to be right where you left them. But no, life goes on, right? And life went on in the region of Judea and continued to be, occupied and fought for freedom, whether it was the Turks or the Mamelukes. Like, there's so much happened in this particular region. And there was a lot of cross-germination. I'm reading a book about Africa. Let me bring up the name of this book because I highly recommend it. It's called An African History of Africa. So it's Africans talking about African history. It's an incredible book. And part of that talks about the migration, because remember, like Judea, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, the Red Sea, North Africa, they're connected by land. Like, you can walk to it. You could walk to Egypt from Gaza. So it's like this region has been tied into our history as a descendant of Africans the whole time. So that being said, one thing that is, not covered often is the Arab slave trade. Like, Arab countries participated in slavery also. It wasn't always transatlantic. Sometimes it was trans-Indian Ocean. So that being said, there's a long history of North African Arab Judeans in this area of sort of conflict. And anyway, there's a long history here. We went through it already. And then finally, when the British left in 1945, was finally when Israel did the grab to call themselves a country. Now, remember, a modern nation state, a post-World War II League of Nations type nation state, a geopolitical line is not the same as an ethnic person, right? And everybody who live within those geopolitical lines don't necessarily hold to the positions that the made up geopolitical government holds. Let's remember that, right? But Palestinians one day woke up in Israel. Like, we never left. We did not cross the border crossed us. And what I know, when I went for the first time to the region, I went with, full disclosure, an incredibly Zionist organization. Now, granted, I didn't know. And also, I went with a group of homeboys and their wives and homegirls. And our attitude was, all right, well, they're paying for it. We'll chew the meat, spit out the bones. That's an old church phrase where it's like, you take what you need and then you spit out the parts you don't, right? My attitude was, I want to see or hear if this is what I think it is. Because if it's what I think it is, it's kind of sort of maybe absolutely an apartheid. You are a colonial power leveraging your faith to justify things that your holy text calls a sin as a geopolitical nation state. You basically, your pusher is United States. United States got you hooked on drugs, and you stay with them because they got the big gun. Now, granted, you became that, honestly, because of all the stuff that y'all went through. But if it's what I think it is, then I don't know if you got a leg to stand on. You kind of doing this to your own people, was my attitude. But I swear to y'all, I went in there with an open mind. Prove me wrong. Because I thought maybe it was just gang shit. Like, if it's just like gang shit, then it's just like, okay, this is a blood feud. There's nobody right. Like, in my mind, I'm like, if it's just some Crips and blood shit, then it's like, well, nobody's right. This is just what it is. Just show me. And I got to tell you, man, yeah, this was an apartheid. It was kind of, it was like, I heard y'all, I listened to everything. I honestly gave y'all, this is me being real with y'all. I honestly was like, because I grew up in church. I'm in church like everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like every other black people, we grew up in church. I thought Israel was Israel. You know what I'm saying? Then you get there and you like, y'all are Russian. Y'all Polish. And then it was really obvious to look and see, okay, well, I knew Judaism went to Africa before it went to Europe. So I was like, okay, there are Ethiopian Jews. Axum's the first Christian city. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, we got a lot of history in there. And it was very, very easy to notice. Everybody got a little melanin is working in the service industry. There's even programs that was sterilizing African Jews to make sure that they don't have children. Like this, I'm like this. I wish I was making this up. I wish this was like fake news. I'm like, no, it's obviously I didn't see the sterilization with my own eyes, but I saw even within Jerusalem, I saw a clear colorism, a clear stratification. It's just hard for somebody to look at a room full of people of color who already know what it's like to be second-class citizens, for you to try to convince me that your world is separate but equal. We already know from our own experience that don't work. So it was super obvious to me as once I saw it. And then when we finally went to Bethlehem, we went to the West Bank, we went to the city. We couldn't go into Gaza because clearly I can't go into Gaza at the time. This is 2018, 19. But we were on the city right next to Gaza, right? The town right by the border. And they were showing us like blown out like shells from like bombs and stuff like that. That's freaking scary, man. Like to see bus stops that had to be strong concrete because they had to be able to withstand bombs. Like that's, when you get to the human level, it's like, it's dark and it's hard to not feel that the people on the ground are caught into some stuff that none of them asked for. The border is made up. This line is imaginary. It's just a desert. It's a desert that somebody threw a wall on. Like, it don't have to be this way. You feel me? It's hard to not see that, is what I'm trying to say. And then clearly who the aggressor is and clearly who is defending themselves. And to know how people get radicalized, you're just watching it with your own eyes. Like, this is how you make a Hamas. Anyway, that's the background, all leading up to October 7th with the attack from Hamas. Now, during that attack, which again was the start of season 9, which we're seeing the season finale of today. Israel, I'm reading from Reuters. I'll say this. The latest round, see, they even said the thing of the Israel-Palestinian conflict began October 7th, 2023, when Hamas militants stormed across the border into Israel communities. Israeli says militants killed more than 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and took 250 people into captivity in Gaza. So that's how this new shit started. And like we said in one of the first You Wasn't Outsides episodes, we gave the example of one of my closest friends and in a family scenario with his cousin, where his cousin got out the pen and was staying with him and staying with my friend. And while this was happening, my friend's mother was going through this situation with someone who was doing a utility service for her who was not treating her fairly. So this cousin who just got out the pen hears about his auntie who was kind enough to take him in, who's one of us, who felt that she was being taken advantage of. And she was being treated very unfairly. And she looked to, because my friend was only a teenager at the time, she looked to her nephew, a nephew for which no one else in the family wanted to take in after he got out of prison. So let's remember that. So he felt an obligation to take care of this for her. And take care of it he did. He took that utility worker hours away and did atrocious things to that man. And then came back and returned the products for which his auntie was missing. And his auntie was like, nephew, what did you do to that man? I did not ask you. I ain't asked you to go that hard. I just wanted my stuff back. God dog. And then to take this scenario further, if that said worker who got abused in ways for which that I can't explain decided to bomb the entire city of Los Angeles and wipe out the entire death toll of the entire city because he did not like me and treated the way he treated that. This is what's happening right now. Like, okay, so it went psycho. Now, what this brought up were old stuff, right? Now, you ever been to therapy? If you ain't been to therapy, or if you haven't been in a relationship, you know, there are things called triggers where a lot of times what we talking about right now ain't really about right now. It's stuff that we just have not dealt with for a long time. This scenario brought that up, and this is what I feel got the college kids out here finally radicalized. They finally realized that it's like, oh, this is more than just this moment. Because if it was just this moment, then it would be completely understandable to where it's like, oh, you got to go. Okay, you got to go to war. Like this, you know, y'all got attacked. And then somebody say, wait. No. They didn't get attacked out of nowhere. This been going on for 100 years. This is just the next blow. And people was like, wow, 100 years, do tell what's been going on. Then you learn about the infantas. You learn about how Israel, you learn about their displacement, the birth of Hamas and what Hamas was at one time. You start learning all this stuff. And then you start realizing even when they got there, one of the things that this brought up was the normalization. Now, you remember when I talked to you about normalization, which is essentially what they saying is the rest of the Arab nations, I don't know if we gonna recognize y'all as a nation. Remember, y'all left. And what you did to the people of Palestine is unacceptable. I'm not accepting you as one of us because of your treatment to the very people for which you know you displacing. I'm not going to recognize you You ever, like, anybody got a step parent? If you get a step parent when you a little older and you're like, you're not my real dad, you're not my real mom, I am never going to call you mom. I am never going to normalize my relationship with you. Why? Because you don't matter. Now, this is harsh because I am, in fact, a stepfather. Now, granted, I've been around since I was 3, and I did everything I could to make sure that I was the type of man that this young lady needed. My relationship has been normalized. But sometimes that don't happen. And they was like, until you do right by the Palestinians, we are not going to acknowledge you. And the people who've been leading that was Iran. Now, it's not like Iran is some superhero in this story. Like we said, Iran ain't no superhero, but Iran is basically saying, none of us fuck with y'all. We don't. Why are you here? We are the resistance. So they started coming behind groups like Hezbollah. Remember that because Iran and Lebanon been having the smoke with any of the Western nation, because all Israel is to them is just, you're just an American outpost. We know what America does. You just like them, and you pretending to be one of us. We're supposed to feel bad for you? We don't understand how, if you went through what you went through, why would you treat us this way? So Iran started backing people like Hezbollah. They started backing the Houthis. Feel like they going through the same thing in Yemen. They started backing Hamas and providing the bread, providing the guns, because they was like, nigga, y'all not even supposed to be here anyway. Now, this does, again, please hear what I'm saying. Iran ain't the heroes in the story. They are not the freedom fighters in this mug. They got their own agenda. But they thing was, again, what you're doing, how you got here is all fraudulent. It is all wrong. It does not have to be this way. Now, from us on the outside, who are not in the region, it was obvious to us who had a little bit of sense, you need 2 states. Israel doesn't have the right to exist. What you don't have the right to do is to exist on top of people that already exist, is the point we're trying to make. And of course, there are extremists on the Israel side, you know, the Jewish clerics that believe that the Messiah ain't coming until we hold this whole land, river to the sea. There are Arabs on the Palestinian side that are like, no, you're right. You don't get to exist as a nation. Are you listening to me? Not as a people, but where is the human right that says you get to have a country? Like, why do you get to have what is this? Of course you can exist, but I don't mean you get to have a country. And so for the Zionists of the world, they're like, no, those are the same things. Existing means we need a country because everywhere we go, we're kicked out of. To which the Arabs are like, nigga, and water's wet. You think we ain't gone through this? You feel me? That's their attitude about it. Now, the issues that this brought up was 2-state solution. What exactly is an apartheid? Should we do normalization? And is Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal? We talked about what is a genocide, right? And how South Africa was like, oh, I know what a genocide is, and this is one. You're a war criminal. But then we talked about how the UN and the International Justice Commission has a literal definition of what a genocide is. Now, is this a crime against humanity? It passes every test for that. Is it a genocide? With our eyes, we're like, nigga, duh. And not only that, it's because of what Benjamin Netanyahu said. We trying to wipe y'all out. Now, on one side of his mouth, he's saying, unless you agree with us, we're trying to wipe out Hamas. But they did the whole sprinkle some crack on them the way that we experienced with the war on drugs, which is like, we killed them because they Hamas or they friends with Hamas. Now, it's people inside of Netanyahu's cabinet who are, this is all reviewed just in case we haven't got there yet. It's people inside of Netanyahu's cabinet that's like, no, we need to wipe them out. To where he's even like, bro, can you chill, cuz? Like, we can't, you saying kill them all, my nigga? All of them? And they like, if you sign this peace treaty, now it's not even a peace treaty, you sign this ceasefire, we're leaving. And keep in mind, simmering on this other pot is Netanyahu facing criminal charges that as soon as this nigga get out of office, He gonna have to face trial. We did an episode on that too. But is he committing crimes against humanity? Are these war crimes? The starvation that's happening, the carnage, the death toll, the untargeted bombings that he says are targeted bombings, just this over exorbitant, you are doing way too much styles of warfare that he's doing. And the way for which you're doing it is very reminiscent to what happened to y'all as a people. So it brought up all these things. You've been doing this for years. You want us to normalize with you, but this is why we won't normalize with you. You're starving out your own people. And if your said goal was to root out terrorist groups like Hamas, you did the opposite. You are doing what every expert says is creating extremists by having the state come down with the carnage that it's coming down with. And speaking of carnage, let's go through the numbers now. I mean, next, after the break. All right, we're back. So, you guys want to do it just by the numbers? Let's do it by the numbers. You guys ready for something really fun and so cool and so exciting? The official Palestinian Health Ministry count of more than 46,600 Palestinians dead amounts to more than 10 times the amount of the count of losses in all previous Gaza conflicts since 2008. From early 2024, the ministry updated its breakdown of its fatalities to include unidentified bodies, which account for nearly a third of the overall toll. But let's go back. This is according to Associated Press. The number of people killed in Israel, around 1,200. The number of hostages taken into Gaza, 251. The number of hostages believed to be alive, 62, including the two from October 7th, 2023. The number of captives believed to be dead is 36, including two from the October 7th. You ready for this? Number of Palestinians wounded in Gaza, 109,000 people. Number of militants that Israeli military says it's killed is over 17,000. Now, they haven't proven that, but that's what they said. Number of Israeli soldiers, 840. Number of rockets fired from Gaza, fired at Israel from Gaza is 10,000. Displacement. The number of Palestinians displaced in Gaza is 1.9 million. 1.9 million people. That is 90% of Gaza's population. Can you imagine 90% of America losing their homes? Number of Israelis displaced by attacks from Gaza at their peak is 75,500. Number of Israelis currently displaced are around 7,000. But the percentage of the territory placed under Israeli evacuation is about 90%. Now, the destruction of Gaza, over 136,000 structures have been broken. The number of housing units damaged or destroyed is over 245,000 homes. 69% of Gaza is destroyed. Us looking at videos of the Eden fire, of Altadena, of the Palisades, the flyovers. It feels so eerie. I have friends that are first responders that are working in that thing now, just the Palisades. Can you imagine half of California? I just The total cost and damage from this war in the first 3 months is 18.5 billion. 92% of their roads are destroyed. 84% of healthcare facilities. 67% of water and sanitation facilities. Daily amount of untreated water and sewage flowing to the sea from Gaza is 60,000 cubic meters. That's 2.1 million cubic feet. The length of electrical grid destroyed, 510 kilometers, 320 miles. It's Gaza's gone. Like that's the best way to say it. Gaza's gone. One of the things that is so infuriating is every time there was a chance for a ceasefire, Netanyahu shot it down and would blame Hamas for it. It's frustrating because that's not the case. Now, Hamas was saying things very simple, which is like you have hundreds of people who are in jail for life for being suspected of being part of Hamas. We'll return your hostages if you fucking leave. Hey, y'all been to the West Bank? Like, of course you haven't been to the West Bank. They're like, I'm just saying, we just want to exist. And to know that most likely this ceasefire game that has been played is truly so that, or quite possibly so that Donald Trump can get this W. And this is not to give Joe Biden any credit, but when you look at the ceasefire deal that's there, it's the same deal that was there the whole time. Now, believe it or not, because of some programs I'm a part of, I have a printout, parts of the negotiation deal, that apparently if it's been sent to me, then it's not top secret, but here are the points of the deal that I got sent to by negotiators of it. And that's a huge shout out to Qatar, Egypt, and all the different people that worked really hard, because at the end of the day, dude, like, as much as I'm clearly expressing this, negotiating peace is really, really, really hard. Especially because we're talking about something that has existed for hundreds of years. Now, this is not a peace treaty. Again, this is a ceasefire. It is temporary, and that difference matters, which is why I said this is a season finale and not a series finale. And my man Shamil Idris, CEO of Search for Common Ground, we had him on the first last year around this time to talk about this very thing. The way that he explains it is like a ceasefire is like a big gulp of oxygen. Nothing can happen. Like he says, like nothing can happen if you can't breathe. Like we can't talk about any justice, we can't talk about anything else until we can breathe. Like if you're drowning, and right now we're drowning in blood. He's like, if we can just at least get a gulp of air. So see this ceasefire as a gulp of air. It's our first, and then we can deal with everything else after we can breathe. That is not to remove the celebration that many Palestinians are feeling right now and the bliss that the families of returned hostages are feeling right now. But understand that this is more like your first gulp of fresh air. And I want to give a shout out. I don't want to, like, what I'm saying is I'm not going to shit on their work. A lot of times us like activists will shit on the work, like the really hard work that somebody got to do to even get it to this point. I say this also being fully aware of what it's like to negotiate peace, or at least a ceasefire, a truce between rival neighborhoods, let alone rival nations. I'm going to read a few things from this appendix about which are like the deal points. So it was supposed to start the 19th. And in the most shady way possible, Israel just threw in a bunch of extra licks, dropped a bunch of extra bombs. 100 more people died because it was like, well, we weren't supposed to stop till the 19th. Like the bell didn't ring yet, so we keep bombing. Just it's hard to cheer for y'all. Now, okay, so the stage two preparations. The parties and the mediators' objective is to achieve a final consensus to implement the May 27th, which is my birthday, 2024 agreement of exchange of hostages and prisoners and the return of sustainable claim, which would achieve a permanent ceasefire. Now, keep in mind, again, this is what I'm trying to tell you. It's been on the table since May 27th of 2024. So don't y'all dare give Trump the credit for this. All right. All procedures of the first stage will continue in stage two. So as long as the negotiations and the conditions of implementing stage two are ongoing, and the guarantors of this agreement shall work to ensure the negotiations will continue until the agreement is reached. So here are the stages. The withdrawal of Israeli forces, right? Eastwards from densely populated areas along the Gaza Strip, including Wadi Gaza, right? And the Israeli forces will be deployed in a perimeter 700 meters with an exception of 5 localized points to be increased to no more than 400 meters. Maps agreed on by both sides, right? Prisoner exchange. The 9 ill and wounded of the list of 33 will be released in exchange for the 110 Palestinian prisoners with life sentences. Israel release 1,000 Gazan detainees, elderly men. Okay, I can't read that. Not allowed to say that, right? And then let me move on because some of this I'm not allowed to say. The Philadelphia corridor. The Israeli side will gradually reduce its forces in the corridor area during stage one, based on the accompanying maps and agreement on both sides. And then after the last hostage is released from stage one on day 42, the Israeli forces will begin to withdraw and begin their withdrawal and complete it no later than day 50. On the Rafah boarding crossing, will be ready to transfer civilians and the wounded after the release of all women, civilian and soldiers. Israel will work towards the readiness of this crossing as soon as the agreement is signed. There's an exit of all wounded civilians, right, and a return of unarmed and internally displaced. So these are the terms that I know of. And then the last one is the humanitarian aid protocol. Humanitarian aid procedures under this agreement will be done subject to the humanitarian protocol agreed upon under the 2 supervised mediators. Give our people back. Let's exchange our people. Let's put our guns down. Now, clearly, this does not solve the 2-state solution issue. This does not fix the settlements in the West Bank. This will not change anyone's mind concerning their prejudice. But here's a thought. On the Hamas side, nigga, you're out of guns, bro. Because Hezbollah got their ass whooped. The Houthis jumped in and they really didn't help. Iran's busy right now because the Assad regime just fell. You ain't got no backup, cuz you are really, really incentivized to end this shit. On the Israeli side, all sympathies has left. No one has sympathy for you anymore. And you got a president coming in from America who is, remember, your pusher, who's like, if you don't end this shit, I'm blowing this mug up. Now, we don't know what that means. We just know that Trump is so messy that it could mean a million things. Israel's incentivized to keep Trump on his side, on their side. Also because, like I said, Netanyahu facing charges just like Trump is. So he's absolutely incentivized to like make sure this shit get done. And as of today, some people have returned home, which is something to truly celebrate. People were able to come back and see the holes blew out of their houses, but at least the bomb stopped. Now, the last question I would ask y'all is, who won this? Who do you think won? Is that even the right term? Palestine can say their hope was to remind the rest of the world of what they were going through. That's what they said, or that's what Hamas said. It's like, we trying to remind, like, y'all forgot about us. This was the only way to get everybody to pay attention to, like, the apartheid we existed under. Their entire city's destroyed. Like I said, 90% of Gaza's displaced. It's sewage, it's famine. This is going to go on for decades, even after the bomb stops. Children are dead. The infrastructure is destroyed. Hamas is definitely not gone. But they got the world's attention. But they didn't get wiped out. Is that a win? They survived another round. Israel, did you win? You wiped out 90% of Gaza. Well, you didn't end Hamas. Did you get your hostages back? I mean, you could have got your hostages back in May. So that's not just what you wanted. Did you prove your point? You win. You big tough guy. Did you win? These are the questions when you grow up in the hood, like, you know, and I say that loosely, like, my upbringing wasn't that bad. Like, it could have been much worse. It was split, you know, like, I got to go to high school in the Inland Empire, and it was nice. Now, I didn't go all the way out to, like, the, you know, San Bernardino. That'd be different. We went all the way out there. That'd be a little more rough, you know what I'm saying? But, like, my high school, it wasn't that bad. My neighborhood I'm from was wild, but there's definitely I didn't experience what a lot of my friends experienced, a lot of my family experienced. But that being said, you get a little space from it. You was like, bust this mission, you know, you throw this fade, you know, you crash out here and there. Like, did we win? Was that? What did we accomplish? I don't know, man. Nobody wins in a family feud. We'll see what next season holds. Politics. All right, now don't you hit stop on this pod. You better listen to these credits. I need you to finish this thing so I can get the download numbers, okay? So don't stop it yet. But listen, this was recorded in East Los Boyle Heights by your boy Propaganda. Tap in with me at prophiphop.com. If you're into cold brew coffee, we got Terraform Cold Brew. You can go there.com and use promo code HOOD, get 20% off, get yourself some coffee. This was mixed, edited, and mastered by your boy Matt Osowski, killing the beat softly. Check out his website, mattosowski.com. I'm going to spell it for you because I know. MATTOSOWSKI.com, matosowski.com. He got more music and stuff like that on there, so go and check out the heat. Hood Politics is a member of Cool Zone Media, executive produced by Sophie Lichterman, part of the iHeartMedia Podcast Network. Your theme music and scoring is also by the one and only Matt Osowski, still killing the beat softly. So listen, don't let nobody lie to you. If you understand urban living, you understand politics. These people is not smarter than you. We'll see y'all next week.